Peace, everyone. How you doing? Welcome to the podcast. In today's podcast, show is entitled Introduction to Biblical Hebrew. The true churches won't teach you. So we got our brother Hemi with us today. Y'all have seen him here before. We collaborating again. I'm gonna turn the show over to him. You got the show now, Hemi.
All right. Praise Yahweh, brother Albert. It's always a blessing to be here, to be with you. I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. I believe you're one of the most passionate brothers that I know that proclaim the gospel. And I consider it a pleasure to be with you. We're going to talk today and maybe over the next several weeks about biblical Hebrew. Biblical Hebrew. I believe that Hebrew is probably the first language. I believe by faith that when the Lord spoke the world into existence, he used it using the Hebrew alphabet or the Hebrew alphabet. And I believe in Genesis chapter 10, when the language was confused, that one world language was, in fact, Hebrew. And if we look at the Hebrew language over the years, we see that it has evolved. And we see that Hebrew stopped being the primary language of Israel when they came from Babylonian captivity. When they went back into the land, they retained Hebrew, but it was primarily for liturgical reasons. And they even changed the script. So when many people talk about biblical Hebrew, particularly those who consider themselves Hebrew Israelite, and I know that's a bad term, but I just want to use that for a frame of reference. They use what they believe, or what is a paleo older script. But history shows that when Israel came out of the Babylonian captivity, they ceased to use that script, and they start using the script or the letter forms that we know today. And we're going to discuss each of those 22 letter forms today. And somebody may say, well, why is Hebrew significant? Or some may say, why is even Greek significant? And well, I believe that you cannot really study the scriptures apart from studying them in their original language. Case in point, I did a teaching earlier today, and we all know the scripture in Proverbs where it says, "He that findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and obtaineth favor from the Lord." Well, in the Hebrew, that's not what it says. That word "thing" that's in there is not in the original Hebrew script. In the Hebrew, when you read it in the Hebrew, it says, "He that findeth good obtaineth favor from the Lord." He that findeth good, and many times people talk about, I got a good thing, and they think they're quoting the Bible, and they are quoting what is written in the English Bible, but they're not quoting what is written in Hebrew. And what is written in Hebrew is what we have to stand on, and we have to take as gospel truth. Somebody said, well, I don't know. Well, I want to direct your attention before we get into the letters themselves to Zephaniah chapter 3, verse number 9. Zephaniah chapter 3, verse number 9. Now, Zephaniah is one of those Old Testament prophets that we barely turn to and quote in reference. But Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 9, it says, "For then I will turn to the people a pure language, and they may call upon the name of the Lord." That word Lord is capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D. And whenever you see in the English Bibles that word Lord capitalized like that, that's not what is written in the Hebrew Bible. In the Hebrew Bible, that word Lord is really Yahweh or Yahuwah or the Tetragrammaton, whatever way you pronounce Yud Hey Vav Hey. That is the proper name of the Most High. Just like I have a proper name, Brother Albert has a proper name, the Most High has a proper name, and the letters of his proper name are Yud Hey Vav Hey. It says the name of the Lord, to serve him with one consent. So everybody is going to be speaking this one language, and that they may be serving the Lord, Yahweh, Yahuwah, Yud Hey Vav Hey, with one consent. Now, I believe that this is talking about the time of the millennium. The time of millennium, that is the 1,000-year reign of Christ, as it is specified in the Revelation, I believe, chapter 19. It calls it 1,000-year, but it's a long period of time, I believe, where all of the prophecies that have not been fulfilled in literal Israel will be fulfilled. And during that millennial reign, there has to be a language, because we're going to be talking. It's going to be a time where we will be interacting with one another. And what is that language? We believe that language is Hebrew. Now, somebody say, "Well, give me something kind of, what makes you base that?" Zephaniah chapter 3, verse number 8. The verse right before that, Zephaniah chapter 3, verse number 8, is the only verse in the Hebrew Bible that contains all 22 letters that we're going to discuss in just a moment of the Hebrew alphabet, and what are called final forms. Final forms mean there are 5 letters in the Hebrew alphabet that when you write them out and they are at the end of a word, they have a different form, they have a different shape. So those 5 letters are, and the 22 letters are in Zephaniah chapter 3, verse number 8. The only place that is so in the Bible. Is that a coincidence? Or is that the Most High trying to give us a clue of what that language is? And I believe that it is the Most High giving us a clue of what that language will be. We do know that the Hebrew language began to resurface around the late 19th century, early 20th century. And when Israel became a state, or when they, and we're not saying if those in Israel or Israelites or not, that's not the matter at hand. But when Israel became a state in 1948, they needed to have an official language, because people were coming to the state of Israel from all over the world, and they were speaking languages in the part of the world that they were in, and they needed to have a common language. So in 1948, the Hebrew language that began to be revived in the 19th century, late 19th century, became the official language. So, and they began to coin new words because there were words in what that modern Hebrew that were not in the biblical Hebrew, and they simplified the structure in modern Hebrew to make it a little easier to understand the grammar anyway than is in biblical Hebrew. And so I believe that that was a partial fulfillment of prophecy when they said that that language was coming back. And somebody may say, well, isn't that Yiddish? Isn't that Yiddish that they're speaking in the state of Israel now? And the answer is no. Yiddish was a form of Hebrew mixed with German, and it was almost like a Pig Latin type language, but it was not Hebrew. Now watch this. My name is Jaime. Jaime is Yiddish. Jaime is Yiddish. It is not Jewish, but it can be considered a Jewish name. And Jaime in Yiddish means life. But life in Hebrew is not Jaime, it's Chaim. 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 Not Jaime, but Chaim. So Yiddish is not Hebrew. It was kind of like a Pig Latin type of language that they developed while they were many of the Israelites were in the diaspora in Germany or in the European countries. But those who were in the diaspora around the world, they did not speak Yiddish. So Yiddish is not that language of that they're speaking in modern Hebrew. Modern Hebrew has its substratum or foundation of biblical Hebrew. And I could give you a lot of history on the biblical Hebrew, but we're not going to do that. I want to get into the 22 letters. Now, let me say this about biblical Hebrew. There are two forms of biblical Hebrew, or there are two forms of study in biblical Hebrew. And Brother Carl, if you have any questions or you want to chime in at any time, please do so. And if there are any comments or questions that come from your listening audience, please put them in the chat and I can respond to them. But there are two tracks of biblical Hebrew. One is called communicative Hebrew. And communicative Hebrew is when we read the Bible and we read it for understanding so it can communicate to us. And another is called esoteric Hebrew. Esoteric Hebrew is when we look at the Hebrew letters and we look at them beyond their, this is an A, this is a B, this is a C, this is a D, etc. We begin to look at those letters as energy and sources of power. And if the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet made up the language where the Most High said, "Let there be light," we need to find out what those letters added up to where that made the word light. What was the energy behind the word light that was so powerful that it can cause light to appear? Scripture says what? Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Now I think we have a better understanding of that when we understand that the same power, the same letters, the same construction of letters that the Most High used in the beginning of time to speak everything into existence are the same 22 letters that you and I have at our disposal right now. And when we began to use those 22 letters and the words, one that they contain that we see in the scriptures, and as if you really get into biblical Hebrew, you'll be able to construct your own words based on these 22 letters and the 22 sources of energy that these 22 letters combine. And it's very powerful. And I believe that it is something that the Most High is giving back to his people now. And I believe that is that understanding of that. And I believe that Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 9 is really going to begin to see its fulfillment. And one of the first ways that we saw a resurgence of the Hebrew language among those who believe that they are ethnic Israel. One of the first ways that began to happen was their understanding the name, because the name had been hidden for so long. I just read to you in Zephaniah chapter 3, verse number 9, the word Lord, Lord, capitalized. Behind that is the true name of the Most High. Now, some may say Yahuwah, some may say Yahweh, some may say Yahweh, but one thing that everyone agrees on is the Yah being the most High's name. And we find that in also all throughout the scriptures. But most notably, we see that in Psalms chapter 68, verse number 4. But the name was hidden. The name was hidden. All these English Bibles hid the name, and they hid the name, and they said Lord. They said Lord. So the first knowledge that people begin to have of the Hebrew, of those who feel that they are ethnic, and those who feel that they're ethnic Israel here in America, they began to discover the name. They began to discover the name. And that's just what is said in Zephaniah chapter 3, verse number 9. There would be a return of a pure language, and that would be so that they all began to call upon the name. I respect the Masoretes. The Masoretes were the ones who, the Hebrew language originally did not contain vowels. It doesn't contain vowels. And so the Masoretes decided in the 8th century that they were going to, they couldn't insert vowels in between, in the letters. So what they did, they came up with points and dots and marks that they would put under letters, and those dots and points under the letters, they called the nikud, but they would serve as vowels. And so they would learn how to pronounce a word based on the nikud, or the symbols that were under or in the middle of, and in some cases above the letters. And that's how you will pronounce it. But what the Masoretes didn't want, they didn't want people pronouncing the name. They didn't want people pronouncing the name. So what they did when they came to the scriptures where the Most High name was, they put vowel points under the Most High's name to throw off the pronunciation of the name. Throw off the pronunciation of the name. And people began to pronounce the name Jehovah, and they said Jah instead of Yah. It seems small, it seems trivial, but the Most High wants us to understand his name. So that was the first part of understanding this language. And then as people took that on, because the Hebrew didn't have vowels in it, they weren't quite sure, and we're still not to this day 100% sure how you pronounce the full name. That's why some people say Yahweh, some people say Yahuwah, some people say Yahweh. But one thing that everybody agrees on is that first part of the name, Yah. And you can find that through the scriptures, and you can find it very clearly in Psalms chapter 68, verse number 4. They couldn't hide it there because of the way it's an imperative in the verse, praise the name of Yah. And if they would put anything else, praise the name of anyone else, they would have been adulterating the scriptures. And many did in the English Bibles, the NIV and all of these others, perverted the scriptures. King James, the original King James had Jah. The New King James, the only Bible that I've read that of English Bible that does not center around restoring the Hebrew names. The New King James is the only Bible that I've read that correctly interprets Psalm 68 with the name Yah. So that's where we are. We've got the name, and now we are having continuous revelation or illumination about the Hebrew scriptures. So yeah, we can read the scriptures in Hebrew, and I believe we should read the Hebrew scriptures, because just as they masked the name Yahweh or Yahuwah, or whatever way you want to pronounce it, just as they hid that name, there are a lot of other stuff that was hidden in the English Bible that when you read it in the Hebrew Bible, it doesn't say that. Now, I just gave you one instance. I believe it's Proverbs 22:8. He that findeth a good thing and obtaineth favor from the Lord. He that findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtaineth favor from the Lord. And it does not, that word thing is not in the Hebrew. They put it in there, and so people have been running around for centuries. He that findeth a good thing, and the men say, "Hey, that's my good thing," and they don't realize what they are quoting is somebody's translation that they want you to quote, they want you to read, but it's not in the Hebrew. So we study the Hebrew. Brother Carl, you have anything you want to add before I get into the
question? I see you speaking on the fact that if it's not in the Bible or in the Hebrew writings, that there's something wrong with it. Now, this has always been my mindset too. The term Hebrew Israelite, you can't find it written as it's written today in the Bible, be it the Hebrew Bible or the English Bible. But people don't use that same mindset.
Well, you know, I understand exactly what you're saying. And that is, I'll put it like this. That would be in your wheelhouse. That would be in your matter of expertise, because, you know, honestly, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because all of us has to stay within our subject matter expertise. So if somebody's come to me and say, well, is the term Hebrew Israelite in the Bible? I would have to tell them, no, the term is not in the English Bible. I would also have to tell them, honestly, it's not in the Hebrew Bible. Now, the concept, that would be between those who are subject matter experts. And one of those subject matter experts is Brother Carl. So Brother Carl would be able to, all right, I'm glad you did that, Brother Carl. What my job is And what I do is I help people to understand the biblical languages, right? And so now, if you understand the biblical languages, then you will be able to say, hey, this is not in the Bible. So now, and I'm not arguing in favor of Carl and his persuasion. I understand. I'm not arguing in favor of that. But he will be able to say now that term Hebrew Israelite is not in the English Bible, nor is it in the original Hebrew. And the original Hebrew is what we have to base everything upon, because the English Bible are translations of the Hebrew Bible. So if we can cut out that middleman, the English Bible, and I'm not saying that we should do that, but our authoritative source is not the English Bibles, but it is the Hebrew Bibles, because it is the Hebrew Bibles that the English Bibles get their translation. And even in the New Testament, the New Testament, the English Bible in the New Testament is not the final source. I believe, and others believe, that many of the books of the New Testament were written in Hebrew or a sister language, Aramaic. But that is a conjecture. But even if it was written in Hebrew, or part of it was written in Aramaic, Hebrew, and Greek, the fact is that those three languages will trump the English language, because the English language was translated. The English Bibles were translated from those languages, and the English Bible had a lot of influence from the Latin, particularly the King James Bible. So what I'm saying is we have to give credence to that Hebrew language, and even to the Greek language. And when we want to really begin to study the scriptures, we cannot really study the scriptures apart from the biblical languages. I use this analogy, Carl, Apostle Carl. I use this analogy of macaroni and cheese, and in the African American community, macaroni and cheese, man, that is a staple from Easter. I'm not Easter, but around the holidays, Thanksgiving. That's a big staple, right? And if a person can make the macaroni and cheese, man, that's a bomb dish. Well, there's another type of macaroni and cheese called Kraft macaroni and cheese, a box macaroni and cheese. Well, both of them are macaroni and cheese, but there's a vast difference between the box macaroni and cheese and the homemade macaroni and cheese. And when we begin to study the scriptures in the original languages, that's the real macaroni and cheese. And when you're studying the scriptures only from an English perspective, or any language other than the original languages, that is the box macaroni and cheese.
Quick question. So
Yes, sir.
Calling this linguistics or what? What's the terminology we use?
Give me a for instance.
Linguistics, meaning you're speaking on languages.
Okay.
Biblical languages. You're doing it in a linguistic way.
I think I see what you're saying. What we are saying linguistically, we are. There are two parts to that. Yeah, linguistically, we want to understand the scriptures from the original languages. Okay. Now, there's a difference between linguistics and pronunciation. and I'm glad you brought that up, brother. There's a difference between the linguistics and the pronunciation. Whenever we say we're studying biblical Hebrew, and we're focusing on like a modern Hebrew, but a lot of those in quote unquote Israelite communities, they claim to be pronouncing and speaking Paleo Hebrew, and it sounds different. Although it sounds different, the meaning and the concepts of the letters and the words are the same. So linguistically, they are the same as far as concepts and meanings, but they may have different pronunciations. Is that pretty clear, Brother Carl?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get an understanding.
Yeah. And I thank you for doing that, man. We always flow well together. That was beautiful because there are going to be some that watch your broadcast and they would say, well, he's pronouncing it wrong. No, I'm not pronouncing it wrong. I'm pronouncing it the way it was pronounced in the time of the Mashiach, in the time of Christ. However, there are some in certain communities, they claim to have a more primitive pronunciation. And, you know, I'm not going to come against them if they choose a more primitive pronunciation. I would have a problem with them saying that any other pronunciation other than what how they're pronouncing it is wrong when we have the evidence that the modern pronunciations that we're learning are more true.
Well,
One thing about the Hebrew
question, and I'm glad that you broke it down to this linguistics and pronunciation, because anybody coming here listening and saying, well, they dealing with linguistics, and you're also dealing with pronunciation, needs to know that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, well, you know, Brother Carl, we flow well together, man. So thank you for that. And although we may have different pronunciations, you know, we should be on one accord with the concepts and the linguistic. And the problem comes in though when one thinks that they have the truth over another, and then they begin to put another down. And that's, I believe, where the problem comes in, because we're talking about language, man, that's 6,000 years old. How the, excuse my French, but how the hell you know what they were pronouncing it 6,000 years ago? So how can you say 100% sure that your pronunciation is the correct pronunciation? And then you put people down because they're not subscribing to the way you pronounce it. But when we talk about the Hebrew letters, the 22 Hebrew letters, although they may be pronounced differently, the concepts and the energy is the same, or the same. And although they may be written differently, the modern script is called the Aramaic script. And the Aramaic script, or the Aramaic characters, a form of the letters, are what they used when they came out of the Babylonian captivity under the scribe Ezra. They moved from a Paleo script to this Aramaic script. But although the letters look differently, the letters mean the same. They mean the same. And for those who would like to have a sheet of, I think we have a handout. I don't know if you were able to do the handout, Brother Carl. Were we able to do the PowerPoint?
Yes, I had a handout. I'll do my best to make sure they can get it. If not, if
anyone wants the handout, get it. And if anyone wants to, you know, dialogue with me one-on-one, I would be happy to do so. All right. Any other questions, Brother Carl? And then I'm gonna get into these 22 letters. Now I'm gonna just run through the 22 letters, and then next week we're gonna break the 22 letters down even more, and we'll probably do
Be Pacific.
maybe 5 letters a week, and we'll really get into as they used to say, the nitty gritty of those letters, because if these are the letters that the Most High used to speak things into existence, then I think we really need to be putting some concentration on these letters, putting
Okay, well,
concentration.
let's be Pacific next Thursday.
Oh, I'm sorry. Next Thursday. Okay. Thank you,
We're
my
doing
brother.
Thursday shows with Brother Hemi dealing with biblical Hebrew.
All right. And
Linguistics and pronunciation.
okay, beautiful. And one of the things we're going to learn to do, beginning today, Carl, we're going to learn our first Hebrew word, man. And it's one you probably already know. All right, so we're going to talk about the 22 letters. The 22 letters, but again, they're 22 letters, but they're really 22 different sources of energy that the Most High used to combine these energies or these concepts, these ideas together, that they formed a word. And the first one is the Aleph. The Aleph. And the Aleph is, it has no pronunciation in today. And there was a pronunciation maybe centuries ago, but it kind of lost it because of how it was difficult to pronounce. So now they say over in, if you were to go to Israel, or if you go to some Arab speaking countries, the Christians in the Arab speaking countries, they are able to pronounce that Aleph sound, because it comes from it's a very soft sound, and it comes from the back of the throat. And because the so-called Jews, Israelites, in the diaspora in Europe and around the world, they lost that pronunciation of the Aleph. So today, the Aleph is pretty much a silent letter, and you pronounce the Aleph according to the vowel sound, or you pronounce the vowel sound that is under the Aleph. And we'll talk about that more next week. But the Aleph means strength. It means leader. It means first. It means father. And it ultimately gives the connotation of the Most High Himself, Yahweh, Yahuwah. So Yahweh, Yahuwah would be the Aleph. And then we move on from the Aleph, we have the Beit. Now, the Beit is a picture of the house, and it means household. It means family. And it is a picture of a house, or a picture of a tent. And you could take those first 2 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, the Aleph and the Beit, and you put those together, and you put an ah sound or a vowel sound under the Aleph. It gives the word Ab. Another way you could pronounce the Beit is Vet, of Vav. And so is Ab, or is Av. And guess what Av means in Hebrew, Brother Carl? Av is the word for father in Hebrew. So those first 2 letters, because remember, Hebrew is a pictograph. It's a concept type language. The letters, when you combine the letters, they give you a picture. And the Aleph, which means strength, leader first, father, Yahweh, Yahuwah, And then you have the bait. The bait means house or tent, and the bait is the buzz sound or the buzz sound. And so when you put the olive and the bait together, they spell the word father. And what is a father? He is the head of the house. He's the strength of the house. He's the leader of the house. We know that the Most High is the leader of the house of His house, and we are children in His house. So that's how you put those first two letters of the Hebrew alphabet together, and you get the word Father. That's amazing. The third letter is called a gimel, and the gimel is a picture of a camel. And what does a camel? You have to understand that in the days that this Hebrew alphabet was being materialized, the camel was a great benefit to the house. And if you owned a camel, you were really owning something. And the camel kind of represent and being lifted up. It represented a benefit. It represented moving, where you were going somewhere. You were going forward. That was the picture of the gimel. So whenever you see a Hebrew word with a gimel in it, you automatically know that it means a benefit. It means to go forward. It symbolized prosperity, because when you had a camel, having a camel was like having a Rolls Royce or something in today's standard. The fourth letter is a dalet, and the dalet means door. So it would give the picture of a door going in and out of some place, and we could put that in the context of a house. What do? You go in and out of the house. The father goes in and out of the house. The mother goes in and out of the house. The children goes in and out of the house through what? Through a door. That is the dalet. You go and you get your groceries. Those are the benefits that are being brought to the house. And how do you bring those groceries or those benefits in the house? You bring them in through the door. Then we have the hay. The hay means to reveal. It means to behold. It means to really take notice of something. It not just that you're looking at something, but you're beholding it. You're really understanding it. You're understanding it. The next letter is the vav. Now, the vav is a picture of a nail in it, or peg, and the vav means to secure something. So, what do you do if you have a nail? If you have a nail, you secure one thing to another with the nail. So we talk about this in terms of the Most High. He provides security. He provides that nail. Then the seventh letter is a Zion. The Zion. And the Zion means it's a picture of a weapon. It's a picture of a tool, and it means to with the tool of the weapon is you fight with it and you build with it. You fight and you build. So whenever you see the Zion in the word, it kind of gives it a connotation that it's a weapon for war, or something that you use to build. And what is the most famous word, Zion, that we know? Is Zion. In the scriptures, Israel is referred to as Zion. It's referred to as Zion. Then the eighth letter is called Ket. And this, all of the 22 letters are significant. But I would say that the Ket probably is the most popular letter of them all. The Ket means to, in essence, the Ket is really means life. Remember, I said my name is Jaime. Chaim in Hebrew. Chaim is that Ket, the Ket sound, and it gives a picture of a fence, of a fence. And what does a fence do? The fence separates. It separates, and the Ket can separate unholiness from holiness. Some words that we get from the Ket is chesed, which means mercy or grace. Another one is kabod, and that means glory. Glory. And I said earlier, chaim. Chaim means life. And so the enemy comes to kill, to steal, and destroy. But when we put the Ket up, the Ket prevents the enemy from coming in over the fence. Number nine is the Tet. And the Tet is a picture of a snake. And it really means to surround. The Tet means to kind of surround. And the snake is not bad in and of itself. The snake could represent being surrounded by righteousness and so forth. Now watch this. When the enemy decided to deceive the woman and the man, he entered into a serpent. He entered into a serpent. And Yahweh said, curse you should be on the ground. On the ground you should, you should be all the days of your life. But also, if you look in the wilderness, when the people were bitten by a serpent or a snake, Moses was told to erect a brazen staff, and on that brazen staff would be a picture of a serpent. And when they looked to that serpent, they would be healed. They would be healed. So this, and I'm giving you these meaning of these letters at like 30,000 feet. When we take the time to get into these letters, we're going to break them down even more, and you're going to find more about the Tet. The 10th letter is what you call the Yud. It's either Yud or Yod. Either pronunciation is acceptable, and it means hand. It's like a closed hand, and it gives a picture of a closed hand and the forearm. A picture of the closed hand and a forearm. And it means really to work. What do? You work with your hand. You can have the Zion in your hand. That's a weapon. That's a tool. But you have the weapon and the tool, and you grasp it with your hand. You grasp it with your hand, and you either do warfare or you build what you're looking to build. So, and then we come to the Kaf. Now, the Kaf is similar to the Yod, whereas the Kaf is the picture of the palm of a hand, whereas the Yod is the closed hand. The Kaf is the picture of an open hand or the palm of the hand, the palm of the hand. And then we can have the Lamed. That's the 12th letter. The Lamed, and the Lamed is a picture of a staff. It is the picture of a staff, and it means to. It is a picture of a. Okay. It's the picture of a staff. And you know what the scripture says, his rod and his staff shall comfort thee. Well, how does that happen? That staff, the shepherd will put the staff around the sheep's neck and pull the staff back into the fold. And the lamed also means to learn. It means to instruct. It means to learn. It means to instruct. And then we have the mem. The mem is water. The mem is water, and it really means to flow, like the waters flow. And mem is spelled a mem, a yud, and then another mem. And so what happens is you're putting your hand in the water, like still water, and then you agitate that water. And as you agitate that water back and forth with your hand, then the waters begin to create waves, and the waves begin to create a flow. So whenever you see the mem would mean water, but it would also mean flow. Then we would have the nun, the 14th letter. The nun was it was a fish, or is a fish, and it means I call it resources, because you have to remember when the Lord he created the beast of the field and so forth, and they began to procreate and all of that. But the scriptures never really tell us how the fish were in the waters. And so when primitive man, you know, he didn't know as much as we know now. All he knew is if he went to the water, there were fish in the water. He knew that there were fish in the water. Now, over time, he would know how the cattle would procreate, and the cattle would give birth to other cattle and so forth. But he just took it by faith that every time he went to the waters, there was going to be fish. So the fish kind of symbolize resources. Resources. The 15th letter was the Samic, or is the Samic. And the Samic is like a circle, but it means to support. It really means support. You're providing support with the Samic. So whenever you see a Samic in a word, the picture of a Samic, it can give you the connotation of support. The 16th letter is the Ayin. The Ayin. And the Ayin is a picture of an eye. It's the picture of an eye, the Ayin. And the Ayin means to see, to know, or to experience. Now, the Ayin was different from the Hay, where the Hay means to see, but you're seeing something almost esoterically. You're seeing something within, something deeper. Whereas the Ayin is you're seeing something with your natural eye. You could say, I see that woman physically. I see her with my eyes, but there's something about her that is not right. So in that essence, you're seeing her beyond what she looks like, or you may be the opposite. You may, that sister has a very pleasant spirit, and you're able to see that. That's the Hay. You're able to discern it. That's the Hay. But seeing her physically, that's the Ayin. And then we have the 17th letter. The 17th letter is the Pei. And the Pei means mouth. It really means mouth. It means mouth, or it means face. And so what does the mouth do? The mouth speaks forth words, but the mouth is also used to ingurgitate, to bring stuff in to the body. What do you do with the nun? After you get the resources, you put them in your mouth, and you chew it up, and then it goes into the digestive system and so forth. But it all comes through the mouth. The 18th letter is called the sadi, and the sadi is a picture of a fish's hook. The sadi is most known for righteousness. Righteousness. You know that name Melchizedek. Melchizedek. Well, Melchizedek has that zadi in it, and it means king of righteousness. So whenever you see sadi, you could think that the Lord is trying to talk about righteousness, righteousness. And then you have the kof. The kof is the back of the head. The kof means behind, but you know, there's a interesting picture of a kof, and that's a monkey. And what does a monkey do? A monkey imitates you. If you ever go to the zoo and you stand in front of the monkey cage, the monkey may begin to imitate what you're doing. And imitation is not a bad thing as long as you're imitating after righteousness. Now, Carl Albert, a good man, so I want to imitate him in some of the attributes that he has, because there are good attributes, and they follow after, watch this, they follow after the zadi, or they follow after righteousness. So it's okay to imitate someone who is following after righteousness. The 20th letter is called the resh. And the resh, it gives the picture of a person's head, of a man's head. Or it gives the picture of the highest point, or the beginning of something. The first word in the Hebrew Bible is Bereshit. Bereshit, and we translate that into English, in the beginning. Well, it's really Reshit, because that B is, that when you put a B in front of a word in Hebrew, it symbolizes the inside, or in the word, the preposition in. So ba in Reshit, the beginning, Bereshit, in the beginning. So the resh means the beginning. And then we have the 21st letter, the sheen. Now, the sheen means to consume. It means to destroy. And the sheen, as the letter, is the picture of teeth. And what do you do with teeth? You get the noon, the resources, and you put them in the mouth, the pay, and you begin to chew the sheen with your teeth. And what does the teeth do? The teeth breaks down whatever you put in the mouth, and it makes it swallowable. It makes it digestible when you put it through the digestive system. It takes something and it reconstructs it where it is manageable. That's what the sheen stands for. And the 22nd letter, and the sheen, some, you read some grammars, it may say 21st and the 22nd letter, because the sheen, it has two different pronunciations. You have the sheen and you have the seen of pronunciations. And that really comes from the Bible, because in the book of Judges, I can't recall what chapter off the top of my head, but there were two tribes in Israel, and these two tribes were fighting one another. And one tribe was able to say Shibboleth, and the other tribe says Sibboleth. And you would know who was on which side because of the pronunciation. Some would say Sibboleth, and some would say Shibboleth. And that just, was a part of the Hebrew, or it became part of the Hebrew standard. And when we began to read Hebrew, a word's meaning could be different it could be spelled the same, but the meaning could be different simply if it's pronounced sheen or seen. And the way you would be able to tell the difference between the sheen and the seen is a little dot over the letter. If it's on the right, it's a sheen. If it's over the left, it's a seen. A seen. All right, and the 22nd letter of the Hebrew Aleph Bet is the Tav. The Tav. And the Tav means a sign. It's another the covenant. And you know what the picture of the Tav is in Paleo Hebrew, the oldest script? The picture of the Tav is a cross. It's like a T, and it looks just like a cross that we would make today. Wow, that's amazing. So 6,000 years ago, the picture of the last letter in the Aleph Bet was a picture of a Tav. Now, we've all heard in Revelation chapter 1 where the HaMashiach said, I am the Aleph and I am the Alpha and the Omega. I'm the beginning and the end. I'm that. Well, that's what it reads in Greek. But you have to remember that John was an unlearned man. John was a fisherman, and he was not. And the Bible says in Acts that many of the disciples were unlearned men. So, and Hebrew or Aramaic was the language of Israel at that time, although they were in the Roman Empire, and Greek was the lingua franca of the Roman Empire, but in Israel, it was not so. In Israel, they had their own language, which was Hebrew or Aramaic. And Hebrew Aramaic, like I say, they're sisters, the same alphabet, pretty much the same grammars. So if the Most High, if Yeshua spoke to the angel to speak to John, he would not have told John that he was the Alpha and Omega. If he was speaking Hebrew or Aramaic, he would have said, I am the Aleph and the Tav. I am the Aleph and the Tav. Now, what is the Aleph? Again, the Aleph is a picture of an ox, a bull, strength leader. It ultimately is Yahuwah, Yahweh. And the Tav being a picture on the cross. So if he said, I am the Aleph and Tav, what he was really saying and what he was doing was painting a picture that I am God on the cross. And because this was a post-resurrection talking to by the Yeshua, what he was really saying to John, and John was able to receive this, is I am God who was on the cross. I am God who was on the cross. Man, that is amazing. And you can't get that reading from the Hebrew that Yeshua would have said that I am God on the cross. You can't get that from Alpha and to Omega. All right, Carl, I've gone through the 22 letters of the Hebrew Aleph Bet, man. You have any comments?
No. See you next Thursday.
Okay. All right. If there any, I want people to, can I ask them to do me a favor, Carl?
You can ask them whatever you want.
Okay. I'm not asking for money. I need to build up my YouTube channel. I think I have 29 followers, and I need 21 more, and then I'll give a call so I can learn how to go live on YouTube. My YouTube station is Biblical Languages Institute. Biblical Languages Institute. And if you could please go there and subscribe there, it'll be greatly appreciated. And we could get you some more information like this. All right, Carl, I love you, man. I'll talk with you later on.
All right, peace.
All right.